The press conference is held in Fort Worth, Texas, with President Donald Trump addressing a policy reform related to veterans, benefits, and military pensions. The atmosphere in the room is thick with anticipation, and veterans across the country are watching closely. Trump stands at the podium, addressing the issue of veterans' health care access and pensions. With a strong and assured tone, the room is filled with reporters who are eager to capture any slip or significant moment from the president's speech. The veterans in the audience are listening closely, uncertain if the promises made during the campaign will be kept or if they are just more political rhetoric. Amidst the murmurs of reporters, Jack Delaney, a man in his early 60s wearing a Marine Corps jacket, rises. Jack is a veteran who served 3 tours overseas and carries the physical and emotional scars of his service. He stands tall, with unwavering resolve, and demands that the president address his concerns. Jack Delaney raises his voice, steady and clear, asking Trump, "Will you stand by us when it matters most?" The room falls silent, with everyone unsure if Jack's question is a protest or a genuine request for reassurance. Trump freezes, locking eyes with Jack, creating a tense moment of silence. After a brief pause, Trump does something unexpected. He steps away from the podium, walking directly toward Jack. This move is unplanned and not part of the standard press conference protocol, and it catches everyone by surprise. The tension in the room intensifies as Trump walks across the floor, ignoring the usual calculated distance between him and the press. As Trump approaches Jack, the room becomes even more charged, and everyone watches closely, wondering what will happen next. When Trump stands directly in front of Jack, neither of them moves, and they simply lock eyes. After a prolonged silence, Trump speaks, but his tone is softer and more casual than expected. He asks Jack, "You really think I don't stand by you?" This question isn't defensive, but it isn't particularly reassuring either. Jack stands firm and replies, explaining that veterans have heard many promises in the past, and they have not been followed through on. He demands that Trump not just speak, but act. Trump's face shifts slightly, and instead of becoming defensive, he pauses, taking a deep breath. For a moment, the room feels like it's holding its breath, not sure how the exchange will unfold. Then, unexpectedly, Trump offers a handshake to Jack, extending his hand toward the veteran as a sign of solidarity. Jack looks at the outstretched hand for a moment, almost as if considering what to do. He doesn't immediately accept the gesture. Instead, Jack takes a step closer to Trump, still maintaining eye contact, a silent challenge hanging between them. Reporters shift uneasily in their seats, not knowing if this will end in a tense standoff or if Jack will finally break the silence. After his words, Trump turns to address the crowd, pointing toward the veterans present in the room. "We've made progress, but I know we can do more. The VA reforms are just the beginning," he declares with a renewed sense of purpose. The audience watches, still uncertain, but a few nod in agreement, sensing that this time might be different. Jack, still standing tall, appears to contemplate Trump's words. He doesn't look entirely convinced, but there's a shift in his stance, a slight lessening of the tension that had filled the room. For the first time in the interaction, Jack seems to soften, his expression showing a flicker of hope, though he's not fully letting his guard down. With Jack's statement hanging in the air, the press conference resumes. Reporters, hesitant but eager, begin asking follow-up questions about veterans' policies and Trump's future plans for military service members. Trump answers, but his responses have a different energy now, more reflective and serious than before. The crowd remains divided, some nodding along, while others are left skeptical about the promises made. Outside the conference room, veterans gather, sharing mixed reactions. Some express cautious optimism, while others remain doubtful, reflecting on years of broken promises. A few veterans, who have been watching the exchange, comment among themselves, acknowledging the significance of Jack's courage to speak up, but wondering if any real change will follow. As the press conference ends, the media picks up the moment, broadcasting it across networks. Some veterans advocacy groups seize the opportunity to organize rallies and press releases, calling for concrete actions to back up the words spoken during the event. "I won't let anyone forget the sacrifices you made for this country. It's time for the government to stand by you," he states with determination. While some find his words empowering, others remain skeptical, pointing out that this rhetoric needs to be followed by real policy actions. Reports surface that, behind the scenes, Trump's team is working on new legislative proposals aimed at further improving veterans' health care and pensions. A bipartisan coalition in Congress begins discussing the possibility of accelerated funding for the VA and additional reforms to address long-standing issues. However, some veterans remain wary, having seen past promises from previous administrations that failed to come to fruition. Jack Delaney becomes a symbol of veterans' frustration and hope. He is invited to speak at rallies and participates in interviews, demanding that veterans be treated with the dignity they deserve. He continues to speak out, not only questioning political promises, but also calling for a lasting commitment to the mental health, physical care, and overall well-being of veterans across the country. While Jack doesn't claim victory, he holds firm in his belief that change is only possible if people like him keep fighting for it. As Trump's administration moves forward, the pressure for reform builds. In response to the heightened focus, several new legislative proposals aimed at reforming veterans' health care, increasing funding for the VA, and expanding mental health services gain traction. Some of the proposals are well received, but they still face obstacles, with some politicians skeptical of the ability to implement such far-reaching changes without significant budget increases. The exchange between Trump and Jack continues to fuel debate among both supporters and detractors of the administrator. Veterans organizations hold their own discussions about how best to ensure that political promises are followed through on, organizing grassroots efforts to keep the conversation alive in Washington. As time goes on, Jack remains steadfast in his advocacy, keeping the pressure on politicians and ensuring that veterans' issues are not sidelined. While some changes are implemented in the short term, the question remains whether the promises made by Trump will lead to lasting reform or if the system will revert to old habits once the spotlight fades. As years pass, the confrontation between Jack Delaney and Trump becomes a defining moment in the ongoing fight for veterans' rights. It is often cited in speeches, op-eds, and political discourse as a pivotal turning point in how veterans are treated by the government. While Jack's individual impact cannot be overstated, his role in the broader veterans advocacy movement becomes part of a larger narrative that transcends any one political figure or administration. Veterans Affairs VA continues to be a central issue in American politics. Successive administrations, regardless of political party, must address the concerns that were raised during the Trump administration's attempts at reform. New government watchdogs, as well as independent organizations, scrutinize the progress of reforms, holding politicians accountable for delivering tangible results. The media remains an important force in amplifying the voices of veterans. The coverage of Jack's brave stand shifts the narrative, and more stories of veteran struggles are brought to the forefront. The press continues to press for accountability. Social media becomes a powerful tool for veterans groups, who utilize it to organize rallies, raise awareness, and engage directly with lawmakers to ensure that veterans' needs are not forgotten. Debate continues on whether Jack's moment with Trump was a flash in the pan or a true turning point in the treatment of veterans. Some remain hopeful, citing legislative changes in areas like healthcare access, mental health support, and pension improvements. Others see it as a fleeting instance, with only minor reforms that don't address the systemic issues within the VA. The uncertainty about whether lasting change will happen persists, with both sides of the debate raising valid points. As the years pass, the battle for mental health care for veterans becomes one of the central issues of the veterans' rights movement. PTSD, depression, and anxiety disorders remain at the forefront of concerns, with many veterans falling through the cracks of the mental health system. Jack Delaney, who has become an outspoken advocate for improved mental health care, helps lead a new initiative aimed at making mental health services more accessible to veterans. This includes lobbying for more funding for therapy, creating peer support networks, and advocating for programs that focus on trauma recovery. Despite these efforts, the stigma surrounding mental health continues to be a major barrier, and progress remains slow. Yet, Jack's tireless advocacy sparks a wider public conversation about mental health care for veterans, pushing the issue to the forefront of national discourse. 44. A change in political leadership. A crucial debate takes place in Congress about the future of the VA and how best to modernize the system without losing its commitment to those who served. Jack continues to play a pivotal role in these discussions, always reminding lawmakers of the need for bold, systemic change. Works closely with mental health experts, lawmakers, and veteran groups to implement new suicide prevention strategies, including increasing access to crisis intervention services and raising awareness within the veteran community about available resources. Despite the increase in efforts, the problem persists, with many veterans still feeling isolated in a defining moment for the movement. Jack organizes a massive rally in Washington, D.C. It is a show of force, bringing together thousands of veterans, families, and supporters from across the country. The rally aims to put renewed pressure on lawmakers to pass comprehensive veterans reform. The rally is covered extensively in the media, and the powerful images of veterans coming together in solidarity force a national conversation. Jack delivers a passionate speech, calling for an end to the bureaucracy that delays care and for a more compassionate, efficient system that truly honors the sacrifices of veterans. The rally becomes a turning point, as lawmakers on both sides of the aisle begin to recognize the scale of the issue. There is a renewed sense of urgency as veterans continue to demand that their needs be addressed not in the abstract, but in tangible, life-changing ways. As a direct result of Jack's advocacy, a bold piece of legislation is introduced in Congress, the Veterans Bill of Rights. This sweeping bill includes provisions for universal access to health care, a comprehensive mental health program, job placement assistance. While the passage of the bill is not a simple process, it is a sign of progress, and for many veterans, it represents the culmination of years of hard work and sacrifice. The movement Jack helped build begins to see the fruits of its labor. Over time, Jack Delaney's legacy becomes synonymous with the movement for veterans' rights. His tireless work in advocating for mental health care, fighting the stigma surrounding PTSD, and pushing for systemic change becomes a touchstone for future generations of advocates. As he reflects on the long road he's traveled, Jack is both proud of the progress made and aware of the ongoing struggles that veterans still face. The Veterans Bill of Rights, though not perfect, marks a major milestone, one that provides veterans with stronger protections and more support than ever before. It becomes a foundation for continued advocacy and reform. Jack, now older, passes the torch to the next generation of leaders. His work has created a momentum that shows no signs of slowing down, and young veterans, inspired by his example, continue the fight. The movement has evolved from a series of isolated efforts into a united, powerful force, with a new focus on not only political reform, but also the care and mental well-being of every veteran who served. In his later years, Jack attends a ceremony to honor veterans. As he looks out at the sea of faces, young and old, veterans of all backgrounds and experiences, he feels a deep sense of fulfillment. He has helped ignite a national conversation about veterans' rights and changed the lives of countless service members. At the ceremony, a speech is given by a new, young advocate who proudly credits Jack's leadership and vision. As the crowd cheers, Jack realizes that the movement he started will continue long after he's gone. The fight for veterans' rights has become a permanent part of the national consciousness, and Jack's legacy will inspire generations of future veterans and advocates to keep pushing for justice and reform. The struggle for veterans' rights is ongoing. While there have been significant improvements in care and support, many challenges remain. New issues arise, such as the increasing need for veterans to transition to civilian careers, and the impact of climate change and emerging technologies on modern warfare will likely bring new challenges for future veterans. Yet, as Jack Delaney's journey comes to a close, the movement is stronger than ever. The relentless pursuit of fairness, dignity, and care for veterans continues, driven by the belief that those who serve the country deserve the best possible care and a life of dignity after their service. Jack Delaney's fight may have started with a single, powerful moment of confrontation with the powerful, but it has evolved into a nationwide movement. The battle may never be over, but the spirit of perseverance and justice he instilled in the hearts of his fellow veterans and advocates will continue to echo through the halls of Congress, in the media, and across the nation for generations to come.